Hello, it's Monday the 11th of July and welcome to your 5-minute briefs from Seoul. I'm your host, Hee-Jin Koo. In our first installment of the month, we take a look at South Korea's announcement adding new food items to its list of tariff-free goods to offset inflation woes, how the scorching summer heat is depleting the nation's energy reserves, and how South Korea is mulling on tighter COVID-19 rules amid signs of a resurgence. We also explore a rosy outlook by the nation's main airport for the number of overseas travelers to soar 8-fold this year, and how South Korea's youngsters are embracing online trades for second-hand goods. Let's begin our 5-minute roundup. South Korea will remove tariffs on 7 additional food imports, including beef and chicken, in a bid to alleviate concerns over surging food expenses, which showed no signs of easing due to global supply chain disruptions and geopolitical risks in Europe. The Asian nation, which relies heavily on imports for some of its major food items, said starting this month it will lift duties on imports of beef, chicken, spring onions, coffee beans, baby formula, and powdered milk. This adds to the already existing list of 26 major industrial and food items, such as pork, cooking oil and liquefied natural gas that the government announced earlier this year. The nation's inflation soared 6% in June from a year earlier, the fastest pace in nearly 24 years. Korea hovers near bottom among OECD nations in the World Food Security Index compiled by The Economist each year, making up for just 1/5 of its total grain consumption. In case of wheat, Korea's self-sufficiency rate stands at a meager 0.7% and relies mostly on shipments from the US, Australia and Ukraine to meet its needs of some 3.5 million tons. This includes a 32% increase in wheat farmland last year as part of the government's drive to increase self-sufficiency. South Korea saw record-high power consumption amid an early heat wave, draining its energy reserves due to a hotter-than-usual summer. Korea's maximum electricity demand peaked at 92,990 megawatts on July 7th, topping the previous record set on July 24, 2018, according to the Korea Power Exchange. The spike drained its energy reserves to 7.2%, standing at 6,726 megawatts. According to government standards, the reserves should hover above 10% to ensure steady supply in the event of an emergency. And according to the Korea Meteorological Administration, the nation's power stations will be put to the test as the mercury ranges between 27 to 34 degrees Celsius for the next 10 days. Meanwhile, South Korea is considering stricter mandates to curb a possible resurgence of COVID-19. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency reported more than 20,000 new cases yesterday, topping the level for a second day and catapulting the final tally to over 18,511,000. Authorities cited the spread of BA.5, a subvariant of the Omicron strain, which is more infectious than earlier mutations and allegedly resistant to immunity from previous COVID-19 infections. The agency also noted more in-person contacts are fanning the spread. South Korea is planning to announce sometime this week its response to the resurgence. In related news, SK Bioscience won approval from South Korea's Ministry of Food and Drug Safety at the end of last month for the nation's first locally developed COVID-19 vaccine. This allows the Asian nation to become the third country in the world with both domestically developed vaccine and treatment. Airline passengers using South Korea's Incheon International Airport will likely soar eightfold during the peak summer vacation season from late July to early August compared to the same period a year ago. Incheon International Airport Corporation projected some 1.71 million passengers will pass through during the peak season from July 22nd to August 10th, up 791% from some 190,000 a year earlier. The number of flights will likely increase by nearly 600% from last year to top 8,000 in the cited period, a daily average of 404 flights. The company sees some 24 million travelers to pass through the airport this year, equivalent to some 35% of the pre-pandemic level of 2019. The number of airport bus passengers in Seoul increased by 2.6 times over the past 6 months, according to the Seoul Metropolitan Government last week. And amid such soaring inflation, South Korea's younger generation, more commonly known as millennials and Gen Zers, are increasingly putting up their luxury goods for sale online and to buy goods at an affordable price. Many are listing their precious brand name luxury possessions such as handbags and watches as a means to obtain cash to offset the dizzying surge in household expenses. According to local newspaper reports, trading on resale and second-hand trading platforms jumped by as much as 10% in May and June, even as prices for these resale items are on a downward trend. Young consumers are opting to tighten their belt by cutting down on extraneous expenditure, such as streaming services, and have deleted food delivery apps from their smartphones. Such a trend will likely continue as the central bank expects a significant jump in inflation rates this year compared to the previous year. That wraps it up for this episode of 5-Minute Briefs from Seoul. This has been Hee Jin Koo for KBSI, wishing you a great week.